Perception versus resume. So today's topic is all about how some of my most recent experiences were not perceived the way that I thought they were going to be, and how different perceptions are from what I would perceive a situation to be and how others perceived me versus what my resume was and my education was and what I thought was common and normal and easy to show and easy to communicate, and how in my most recent experiences and travels, how different that perception was to the reality of what I thought my identity and my background actually is. So it's going to be a pretty cool topic describing how my life experiences have shaped that and how I've watched the life experiences of other people and my industry and events have shaped the reality of what I experienced. Welcome back to Beyond the Black Belts. I'm Megan Cotterill, and I'm the owner of 5 Elements Martial Arts in Calgary, Alberta, and I am the president of the World Kickboxing and Karate Union Canada. If you like these podcasts and you're enjoying the content and it resonates with you, please like or share. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So diving into this new topic, and I feel like this topic has a lot of weight and has a lot of intensity, I think because of just what I've gone through fairly recently. I think it's always been something that's been with me my whole life and has caused me to feel incredibly misunderstood and frustrated and angry and surprised and shocked, and have taken things so personally because of what I thought of my perception and perceptions that other people would have had of me, and the reality of those things, and the reality of what other people think, and the reality of how I'm feeling in those situations, and the reality and the acceptance of how things actually are, and not what I think that they are, or what I think they're going to be, or the fantasy that I tell myself, or even what I've noticed in other people and what they've gone through. And I thought that my experience would be the same as their experience. So I'll start to talk about my most recent trip to Europe. It was an incredibly fun, exciting, exhausting, amazing, life-changing trip to Europe. I'm lucky enough and blessed enough where I get to work in different countries, and I get to showcase different skill sets that I have and different parts of my education and my experience. And I get to work with the world president, who I very much respect. And I get to sort of challenge what I think is next for me in my life and my career. And I get to have these fun sort of experiences where I get to learn and grow and develop new skills and put myself in uncomfortable situations to see what it is that I want to start doing more and more and more of, and what I want to leave behind. I think that I'm fairly open and upfront and even a little bit public about my job and what I've done in my life and just the basic resume career things that I've done. I think that, most people would know that I'm a martial artist. I would think that most people know that I have a studio that I love, that I've had for going on 20 years, and that I've had a studio for over 27, and that I've been teaching martial arts for like a lot more than half my life. And I keep thinking that is so common and forefront and out there and normal. And I keep thinking that people recognize me as someone that's competed and trained a lot and fought all over the world and had different injuries and different experiences and won different titles and gold medals and lost a lot of fights too. And I keep thinking that, people are aware that I public speak and that I share my stories and I share my feelings, and that I'm pretty forthcoming with how I feel about certain things and certain causes and certain things that are close to my heart. And I don't think that I'm a shy person, and I don't think that I've been an introvert, and I don't think that I've kept things close to my chest. What has been quite surprising for me is a few things. Is the fact that because I think I pay so much attention to other people and other things, and I'm in such awe of what they've done or interested about their story or what they've learned or what they've accomplished, and I fangirl over people's accomplishments and challenges and stories all the time, that I think that is part of my perception of what I think people see of me. And I'm starting to have all these realizations that everyone's perceptions, including my own, are based on their own life experiences, what they know, what is comfortable for them, what is normal for them, what they've always seen in the world, how they've overcome things personally, what their triggers are, what their traumas are, what their resume even looks like. And then the other thing is the perception of how I walk into a room or walk into an event or walk into a tournament or walk into a meeting. I think that I walk in looking like a martial artist. I think that I walk in looking like someone that's fought. I think I walk in looking like a studio owner. And I'm starting to realize and have this acceptance more and more and more about the fact that I look the way that I do. And that because the common, I guess, identifier or what's been comfortable for a long time in my industry doesn't look like me. And I do like the way that I look, and I do like the way I present myself to the world. And I think that the way I present myself to the world makes me feel confident, makes me detail orientated. I want to show that femininity to the world. I want to show that I can have a dynamic presence and a different kind of presence in my industry, especially with my background and my resume. What I was not prepared for, and I feel like this has been a constant feeling I've had, is not being prepared for the fact that I am perceived completely opposite always of who I am and what I do and the voice I want to have in the world and the changes I want to make and the space that I'm entering. And so I guess this whole podcast is just me sort of airing out my frustrations and my anger and my exhaustion about what that's feeling like, and some of the changes and the steps that I'm making to kind of alleviate that and not make it so stressful and not make it so angry. I don't want to feel angry like this anymore. I don't want to feel alone about this anymore. I don't want to feel this crazy anxiety. I don't want to feel misunderstood. Like I feel like an alien in most situations, where I don't really think that that needs to be the case anymore if I get more of a perspective myself on it and more of an understanding and acceptance of how to move forward. So it's always interesting walking into these big, beautiful, super successful world events. So the German Open is an incredibly successful tournament. World President Klaus Nonemacher has done a fantastic job growing it, making sure there's, well over 10 to 15 countries that always show up. There is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of competitors and all these different divisions and all this diversity of martial arts and everything from sport karate and forms to MMA to these amazing guys that are doing traditional Okinawan, like Japanese, like Karate Kid style Mr. Miyagi forms in their 70s, to like WBC full contact boxing to K1. Like it's such an awesome community of martial arts that come together in these situations. And I sometimes fail to realize that I'm walking in as the outsider, that I'm walking in and I've had my education, paid my dues relatively in Canada and locally. And, I've had my time to go on the world circuit and things like that, but it's not something that I've been deeply ingrained in for 30, 40 years, like some of the people that have been involved in the organization. They've been competitors for 30 years or 40 years. They've been referees for 30, 40, 50 years. They've been martial artists for way longer than I've even been alive. And so walking into these situations is always such a huge lesson in humility, and such a huge lesson in where my ego sits, and such a huge lesson in how I perceive the world and how people perceive me. So the German Open was a beautiful experience. I got to referee and center referee for WBC boxing and full contact and kickboxing and low kick and K1. And it was quite an interesting moment because I do see these incredibly talented and diverse and strong and assertive and well-qualified females all over the tournament. And it's only maybe 10% of these tournaments. And I don't know why. I don't think it's because our association is not welcoming. I think it is. But I'm just noticing that there isn't much representation and there isn't much opportunity for them to be asked to be put into these type of roles. And I don't know if there's a lot of these women that actually want these kind of roles. I mean, stepping into the center of the full contact ring, I loved it. I loved having the control over the safety of the athletes. In my journey, have often felt like I wasn't safe in the ring and I couldn't trust my referees and judges to maintain my safety, make sure that my opponent was following all the rules, that fouls weren't being made. So I always walked in that ring not knowing if the rules were going to be followed, if I was going to be safe or not, if I was going to get massively injured, how I had to overprotect myself. And I made a promise to myself that I would not do that if I had the opportunity to become a referee or a judge in these kind of positions, or even in a political position as president of Team Canada. Like, I wanted more for the athletes that I didn't get. I thought this was a common perception. I thought I'd spoken about this a lot. I thought that I was pretty forthcoming and open about the changes I wanted to see. I am always so shocked and surprised that because of everyone else's life experience and the events that they go to and where they are in their career and what their community is, that it's missed often. And then it's often missed that I have this experience to be able to do these things in the ring and be able to be a good center referee and be a good voice and understand the rules and know them inside and out and respect them and respect that this position that I've been given is a big deal and it comes with a lot of responsibilities. So as I'm looking around, all the full contact rings, none of them have another female. None of them. And even the amount of questioning I got stepping into the center of the ring. Are you going to be okay? Do you know the rules? Well, do you know how to do the standing 8 count? You know, are you sure that you can handle it because it's the heavyweight men? You know, are you sure you're big enough? And for me, I found it so surprising that I was even being questioned on any of those things. I watched the male referees, some of them the same size as me, walk in the ring. They didn't get questioned once. Half of them needed to be reminded what rule set that they were doing beforehand, which I think is really great because there's often a lot of different changes to the disciplines within the ring and the different divisions that are happening in order to make the tournament flow. So it wasn't on them to not know what rule set was next, but they just weren't questioned in the same way that I was. And there wasn't that same level of insecurity of me being in there. And I think there was 2 parts to that. I think the first part of it was that they're not used to a female, nor me, being in the ring, doing those things, being able to handle and control the ring properly. And I think that they were hoping that I knew so that there wouldn't be any issues or problems or arbitration or anything afterwards. And I think for the first time, I'm starting to realize that maybe being questioned isn't necessarily a negative thing. I think that as I've gotten to know many of these people, especially the males in my industry, there are a few that are just over and above good humans. And I think that their questioning was actually protective. They didn't want me to get hurt. They didn't want someone to question my education or what I could handle or what I could do. I think that they were concerned that I would be overwhelmed and anxious because maybe there was times that they felt exactly the same way in the ring and they got hurt by handling the bigger men, or there was arbitration and drama that they didn't want to deal with, that they didn't want me to go through. But it was really interesting seeing the perceptions of everyone based on their life experience and my life experience, and me knowing I could handle this and them not sure or wanting to be really protective of what I was about to enter into. And so there was part of me that I think took a bit of an ego bruising, because I think my triggers have always been that I felt misunderstood, or I felt put down, or I felt like I haven't been given particular opportunities that I deserved. And I think I take things so personally sometimes when I feel like I'm being judged, or I feel like I'm being put down, or I feel like I'm being belittled, or maybe that is my perception and it's wrong. And it's things in my life and in my own personal journey that I need to deal with and start to understand so I can move forward without having judgment and perception on these other people as well. And I think also I get so tired of having to constantly prove myself and constantly having to explain myself. And it kind of gets buried in there, and that anger comes out in different ways and different triggers later on. So it ended up being the most amazing day. I ended up making the right calls. I ended up doing the right standing 8 counts. I ended up making sure fighters didn't continue to fight when they were knocked out. There was no arbitration in my ring. There was no broken rules. There was no fouls. There was no excessive contact or injuries that weren't allowed. The ring ran really well and really responsibly and really timely. And the other judges were amazing. And the people running the ring were amazing. And the organizers were amazing. And I really ended up getting my footing a lot and building a lot more confidence in myself to not feel like I was being judged. Because it's never about my abilities or talents. It's all about how I'm even judging myself. And even for a second thinking, well, all those judgments could be true, and having that imposter syndrome that maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I shouldn't be in the ring, or maybe I shouldn't try, or maybe I shouldn't be challenged. And I think that's prevented me from actually being more assertive and going for more of my goals, or at least it taking a lot longer than I thought it would to get to those goals, because I actually believed the judgments that were being put upon me, whether they were mean or not, whether they were personal or not. But it ended up being a great day, and I was really proud of the competitors. I was really, really proud of our team. I was proud of the promoters. I was so honored to be there and be part of it and be put into this kind of role. And I think it really started to change my opinion of how I see myself and how I see other people, and how I used to take things a lot more personally, and how that is something that definitely needs to change in my life. And it needs to change when I walk into certain situations. And I need to have a more open heart and a more open mind, understanding that we're all trying to come together and communicate in the same way, but not from the same backgrounds. I'm continuing to work in Germany for a while, and I have the most amazing experiences, and there was lots of fun personal things and lots of fun work things and lots of really good things for my development, lots of situations I was put into to grow and to experience that were first time things. And I was given a lot of responsibility. I was given a lot of honor and respect, sharing my story and what I've learned in business with other studio owners and other people in my industry and other people in my organization. And then it led to an incredibly successful professional fight. And this was my first time doing one of these in Germany. I'd done other ones in the past, but this was my first one for this particular one. And this has been an incredibly successful promoter and an incredibly successful event for, I think, over 30 years. And it's been one of the biggest in Europe, one of the biggest in Germany. And the fighters are incredible. I'm in such awe of their talent and their abilities and their records and their coaches and the gyms that they come from, and, the training that they've had and how clean they are technically. And so I'm trying to stay cool and calm and confident and stay in my role while I'm still in awe of being surrounded by all these amazing individuals. What I was worried about, though, is, again, how I was perceived in the world. So I knew that I had a right to be there. I knew that I was being brought there because I was being respected, because of my resume, not of anything else. My biggest fear, which is really difficult actually to say out loud, was I thought I'd be perceived as a ring girl and not as someone that had a political position, being an ex-fighter, being someone that trains these kind of athletes, being a coach, being a promoter myself. I thought that all those things would speak for themselves, but I knew in the back of my head, if I present myself in a small dress and heels and long blonde hair and red lipstick, am I going to look like a ring girl? Am I going to be perceived the way that I want to be perceived? Throughout the whole night and the whole experience was pretty incredible. I got to go into the ring and shake hands with some incredible people and, present title belts to these incredible fighters that had accomplished incredible life-changing events for them. Like, there's nothing that's more special, especially coming from another fighter that's worked so hard to win a world title or a gold medal or fight an opponent that they were really nervous and terrified to fight and were second guessing themselves and had their own imposter syndrome, to actually presenting that title belt to someone that has worked so hard and it's been so emotional and they've sacrificed so much and they're so proud of themselves and they're so excited. And it's, you see the person they're turning into based on this experience. And it's really incredible. It's like seeing them glow. It's the coolest experience. And so I got to do all of those things, which was pretty incredible. I did, though, still feel like the perceptions of me were different. And so I enjoyed the rest of the fight. The rest of the night was incredible. Great fights, lots of blood, amazing talent, good skills. Most of the fights went the way that I thought they were going to go. Judges were great. Refs were great. But there was also no female representation in the ring. I don't remember seeing a female center ref in any of these professional fights as long as I could think of. And I wonder if that would change perception. If maybe I had been a referee first and then presented the title belt second, would that have been good? Would that have been better? Would that have been easier for my resume? Would that be easier for other females that are trying to, be up and coming athletes? And what happens when they retire? Like, they still want to be part of the sport. What do they do next? I just felt like there was not a road paved for anyone else, and that I really wanted to see that representation of what it could be. And maybe it would help more talent come into our industry and more talent come into some of these fights and have our industry grow and have our organization grow. And the feedback at the end of the fight was what I thought it was going to be, which was really disappointing. And it was that I was there not because I earned my position or because my resume was good, but I was there. And this was feedback not from the people that brought me and not from my small community, because they all knew I was there, but it was because I had an intimate relationship with the person that brought me there. And that was pretty heartbreaking. And it was something I expect, because I expect it often. And I think, I'm just going to say it, but for women in male-dominated industries, especially ones that want to be feminine and put together and present themselves in a certain way, we're always going to hear that feedback until things change and until perception changes, until mindset changes. So as much as it was an amazing night and I was happy to be there and the right people knew why I was there, it still was relatively heartbreaking to think that there was so many people, especially lacking experience, that just thought that was the way it was. And that is the only way it is. And that multiple beautiful women, if they show up, it's for that reason too. And the only reason why they're being included is for that reason. And it's bullshit. It's total bullshit. And I thought I had a lot more resilience about this. I thought I had a lot more patience about this. I thought I had a lot more less frustration, and more acceptance about this. Turns out I didn't. Turns out I was absolutely exhausted. Turns out that I am tired of wielding my shield and my sword everywhere, trying to walk into situations with an open mind and open heart, and then realizing that maybe I need to be more aggressive or more assertive or more arrogant or more full of my ego, which I truly do not want to do. And I'm hoping that moving into the future, I decide not to. Sometimes my ego gets in the way and I just get so frustrated being perceived as a person that I'm not, that I think I need to enter these situations with such a masculine presence and such a fighting presence and such an aggressive presence in order to feel like any type of validation or confirmation that I deserve to be here or sit at this table or do the job that I'm doing or get the promotions that I'm getting or be invited to these events. And it's exhausting. I am totally and utterly exhausted with the fact that no matter how much I prove myself on my resumes or what a good job that I've done or what kind of integrity I've had or how I've spoken out or how I've made my life relatively not private, but more public, and I'm still constantly going through the same experiences over and over and over again. So I think I've made a decision. So based on what I've learned just this last time, I have a different awareness about it than I think I've ever had. Is that I can obviously control my reaction and my feelings in these experiences. And I don't need to let other people's life experiences or other people's judgments or other people's perceptions sway how I'm feeling or how I want to approach a situation or my reaction to things. I can stay calm. I know what my self-worth is. I know what my education is. I don't want to have that imposter syndrome anymore. I don't think I need to have it. I don't think I truly deep down even have it anymore. I know why I'm there. I know why I'm sitting there. I know why I'm doing the job that I'm doing. And I think my key takeaways is that I really have to start approaching the situations the way that I want to, in the way that I want to feel, in the ways that I hope I can do for other people. And it reminds me, like, what kind of judgments do I have? What kind of judgments do I have of other people based on my life experience when I might be judging them in a completely opposite or different way? And maybe I need to listen to them more or listen to their stories more or pay more attention. And moving forward, like, things are going to be different. And I think there was a lot of advice on these situations that I wish I would have had. So if I were to have a mentor sit down with me and say, okay, you're about to enter into these, big events that are really important to you, that are different. You haven't experienced them quite the way that you have before, even though you have experience in all these different realms and all these different events and industries and challenges and experiences. The culmination of all of them is going to be something different. And I wish I would have had a mentor that would have said to me, walk in with more grace, walk in with more patience. Walk in knowing that other people's perceptions of you have nothing to do with you. Understand that you are so deserving of being there because you've earned it and you've done all the work and you've gotten all the right education. Like, you deserve to be there sharing your story and your experiences and your input to the things that you want to see change in the world or in your industry, or what you want to see better, or the fact that you're like, this is incredible and amazing and I'm so proud of where we've come. I wish I would have had a mentor that said it's going to hurt and it's going to be exhausting and you're going to want to cry and you're going to feel disappointed and you're going to feel alone and you're going to feel gross about how you're judged sometimes because it's not who you are. And I wish I would have had a mentor that was able to tell me that it's all going to be okay and that I need to focus on the long game, not the short game. I need to focus on what I'm trying to accomplish in the next 2 years and 5 years and 10 years and 20 years. Not how I feel at that moment or that day or that week. Someone that's able to remind me about what my purpose is and why I love doing what I do, and remind me about why it's so important that I want to make all these great changes or create new initiatives or see more diversity or see more equality. And so if I have any advice for anybody, and if I'm a mentor in these weird situations, which maybe I am, maybe I'm not, maybe I have a right to be, maybe I don't, is that go in with a different mind and a different heart. Be more open and accepting to the fact that everyone's perception of you, including your own self, is based on your own life experiences, your own triggers, your own events, your own challenges, the way you were raised, your self-talk, everything. But maybe it's not true. Maybe it just needs to be what it is. And that's all we can do.